So I think after seeing Captain Marvel, we can all unanimously agree that Thanos, he's probably not the best idea to wear my Batman hoodie. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Luke's Reviews, and on today's video, I will be reviewing the newest MCU film, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel serves as our introduction to Carol Danvers, one of, if not the most powerful person that we've seen in the MCU to date. Obviously, you can tell, slightly different backdrop. I'm back home for the weekend. I went to see the midnight showing last night. Got back at 3 a.m. and there was no way I was recording then. So Captain Marvel takes place in the early 90s. We meet Carol Danvers. She is a warrior on the home planet of the Kree. She's part of this elite task force along with Jude, Gemma and Djimon Hounsou, who plays Korath. He makes an appearance in the film as well. She has no memory of her past for 6 years. She just knows that she has been brought up to be this fierce warrior. And eventually she starts discovering little secrets, and she finds that she actually did have a past on the planet Earth as Carol Danvers, a test pilot for the US Air Force. She arrived on Earth and eventually teamed up with Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and they go on a quest as they also fight against the Skrulls. Now, before I get on to my thoughts of the film, I do have to raise one issue, and it's an issue of whether you like this film or not. Now, if you spend time on the internet and you are within the film Twitter sphere, you understand that people like me, people that post reviews online, we're getting bombarded with abuse, whether we like the film or not. I'll explain, because if you like the film, apparently you're told,
"You're a feminist cuck and you're just lying because you secretly hated the film."
Whereas if you didn't like the film, you're apparently being shouted at by being told,
well, you're just a sexist, misogynistic person that hates women.
None of that is true. Whether you like the film or you don't like the film has no indication on the type of person you are. Like, someone could watch Captain Marvel and not like the filmmaking. That doesn't make them a bad person. So, for once in your life, any Twitter trolls or people hating on the internet, get your head at your goddamn arsehole. And this all stems from the idea of on-screen representation. I am a white man. There have been a shit ton of superhero films where the lead is a white man. So, like last year when we got Black Panther, it was huge. It made a killing at the box office. It was one of the best films of that year, and it did so much for diversity and on-screen representation. Because I grew up with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. I remember watching it as a kid, seeing like, that's him. That's Spider-Man. I want to be Spider-Man. And anyone can have that feeling towards any superhero film they watch, regardless of gender or race. But obviously, it does help that you are seeing someone that looks fairly similar to you on the big screen. That's why Black Panther was so important. That's why Wonder Woman was so important. And that is why Captain Marvel is important too. Whether or not it's the best MCU film to date or not, it's so important that a little girl can go into the cinema and see basically a role model for who she can look and want to become. I went to the midnight showing and there were tons of people dressed up in Captain Marvel suits. This means so much for so people. And if you're sitting there behind your keyboard tapping like,
But it's not a white man, so it can't be real.
Shut up, okay? You've had your time. You've had your turn. Let someone else have a go. And now the serious part is over. I quite like this movie. It's exciting, it's energetic. I think it's a good midpoint between Infinity War and Endgame. It definitely has got me a lot more excited for Endgame, which I don't think was humanly possible. I think it serves as a fun introduction to Carol Danvers. I mean, there are issues that I don't think it's quite great. I think it's very good, but there are a few things that stop it from being great. Brie Larson, in my eyes, is perfectly cast. She's charming, she's likeable, she's badass when she needs to be. She plays the coolness, the sassiness so well, and when she gets going, I would not want to stand in her way. And you can tell that this role meant so much to her. She is giving it like 200% in that role. She's so committed to everything she does. Whether it lands or not, the passion is through the roof. And I really think she's going to end up becoming one of the most iconic superheroes within this millennia. However, where one of my main issues lie is in the writing of Carol. Not Captain Marvel, but Carol herself. Captain Marvel is fantastic. But if we're talking about character, Carol Danvers wasn't as developed as I hoped she would be. She's fairly thinly written in places. We don't get that much backstory to her. I'm not asking for a huge exposition dump, but I would have liked to have known a bit more about her. We get some tidbits relating to her parents and her life growing up. So her arc basically boils down to the fact that she's constantly being told that she's nothing, and she believes that she has to prove herself to many other people, whereas she can just simply accept the fact that she is who she is, and they just roll with it. And that's a great message for anyone, but I think in terms of actual character development, I would have just liked to have seen more Carol. And don't let the trailers fool you about this primarily being like a buddy cop movie between Carol Danvers and Nick Fury, because this is unabashedly a space flick. There's a very small section that takes place on Earth. The rest of it is pure sci-fi filled excitement. It does share a lot of similarities in regards to Guardians, and that's not just because it features Ronan the Accuser and Korath. However, the time spent on Earth is good. It's a mixed bag in places. For example, the second act kind of drags significantly in places. But for starters, her and Fury, their interaction is brilliant. Their chemistry is off the charts incredible. They bounce off each other perfectly. They have some of the best dynamics that I've seen in Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And do I need to tell you that Samuel L. Jackson is good in this role? I mean, the de-aging work that they've done to make him look about 30 years younger is scarily good. It's uncomfortable how good this is getting. There's a whole host of supporting characters too. Jude Law plays a fellow Kree warrior that might know a little bit more than he's letting on. Annette Bening plays the Supreme Intelligence, this AI machine that controls Kree, that controls the world that they live in. And Ben Mendelsohn plays Talos, a Skrull general. Finally, we get the Skrulls. The Skrulls are one of my favorite comic book villains of all time because they deal so much with psychological paranoia and twists and turns. Basically, if you don't know about the Skrulls, they're these green aliens, but they can shapeshift into anyone that they see. So they could be your best friend, your husband, your wife, anyone close to you, they can disguise themselves and morph themselves into. And it's always good in comic book storylines because you're left guessing as who's Skrull, who's real. And let me be honest, I hate the way they look in this film. I'm really not a fan of how they look because they look like some crappy Star Trek or Stargate villains. The prosthetics don't look as convincing as they could do. They look kind of rubbery in places. For example, Ben Mendelsohn's character, for me, it's just Ben Mendelsohn with a bit of green on. I never bought into that he's a Skrull, but he does win you over with his charm and his surprising humour. He's really funny in this film. The action delivers on every level that you would expect from a Marvel movie by now. The space sequences, they're cool. And once the finale hits and Captain Marvel embraces like all her powers, she wrecks shop. I would not want to stand in her way on a bad day. As can be expected, there's a really good sprinkling of humour. You'll probably hear this from every person that has seen this film. Goose is amazing. Goose is the cat that you've seen in the trailers that Nick Fury is making a fuss of. And I will avoid spoilers whatsoever, but Goose steals the whole goddamn show. Oh, he's so adorable. He's so cute. And he's one of the best parts of this film. He honestly, a cat, gets some of the best laugh out loud moments. There are 2 post-credit scenes this time round. Make sure you stick around for that middle one because, no spoilers, but you might not want to end your game early. That was one of the worst jokes you've ever done, Luke. And the final credit scene, it's not that important to the film. It's primarily quite a jokey one. So if you are desperate for the loo, per se, go. You probably won't miss much, but stick around if you want to anyway. And as can be expected, there is a tribute to Stan Lee, and it is perfect. This is the best way that they could have ever done it. I'm not gonna lie, it hit me smack bang in the heart. Everyone in the cinema, you could tell, was kind of getting a bit choked up about it. I could not think of a better way to honor Stan Lee. So Captain Marvel wasn't quite the smash hit that I had hoped for, but it is still a really thoroughly exciting and entertaining entry into the MCU. And like I said, it has got me really hyped for Endgame now. Brie Larson is great, as are the rest of the cast. The action's cool, the humor unexpected in places, but really funny as well. It kind of drags for a little bit, then picks up eventually. I would have liked to have seen Carol Danvers be fleshed out a little bit more, because I don't think there's going to be any time for that in Endgame. But maybe we'll get that in the sequel, who knows. And it does also include a very important message to be whoever you want to be, and do not let anyone stand in your way. Unless you want to be a dickhead, then let people stop you. So I'm going to give Captain Marvel a 7.5 out of 10. So those are my thoughts on Captain Marvel. If you've seen the film already, let me know what you thought in the comments below, as well as your favourite entry into the MCU in Phase 3. So that is from Captain America Civil War onwards. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm really hoping we can try and get to 100 subscribers by summer. I know it's a bit of a long shot considering this channel is still pretty fairly new, but we've been doing pretty well, guys, so that's my goal. 100 subscribers by summer. I think we can do it. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and blog are in the description below. Many thanks for watching, guys, and I shall see you in the next video.